More people in Britain are gambling than ever before, and more of those people are showing signs of problem gambling, according to the latest prevalence study published by the UK Gambling Commission on Tuesday. And while the number of people playing the National Lottery has fallen since it was introduced, many more are playing a much wider range of games. The latest statistics are being seized on by both government and industry alike, and are being closely watched across Europe. But we talked to Heather Wardle, one of the study's authors, about the conclusions that can be drawn from the first snapshot of gambling in Britain since the 2005 Gambling Act came into effect.
So what we're seeing is a change in gambling behaviour since 2007. We're seeing that more people are gambling than before, particularly women and people aged 55 and over, and that there's a narrowing of the gender gap between men and women in terms of gambling behaviour. We're also seeing a probable increase in problem gambling when measured according to one particular instrument, and that's the DSM-4 screen. I think one of the things that is most interesting to me is the change that we're seeing amongst those people aged 55 and over. We're seeing that they're taking part in more types of activities. They're taking part in gambling because it's a recreational activity that they enjoy. Their attitudes have also changed the most, and they're becoming more neutrally disposed towards gambling. We're seeing quite a clear trend in women taking part in gambling. More women are taking part in gambling than ever before. They're also taking part in a range of different activities. So it's not just women taking part in the National Lottery. They're increasingly taking part in things like scratch cards, charity lotteries, online casino game, bingo, and so on. From the conversations I've had, people are watching the results to see what's happened in Britain, because we've had policy and regulatory change, and this is the first survey that's been published since the Gambling Act 2005. So whilst this survey was never set up to be an impact assessment, people are actually looking to see, well, what's the landscape of Britain like now? How does that fit into the policy and regulatory changes? What does that mean for our own country? And we know countries like Greece, for example, are currently going through a very similar process. So I think they should be and will be looking at this quite carefully.
Well, gambling prevalence as a whole has gone up, and it's gone up significantly, by which I mean statistically significantly, which is a really important point to bear in mind when we talk about changes. It's gone up from 68% in 2007 of adults who are gambling to 73%. So that's obviously an important conclusion for us. This survey doesn't tell us the reasons for the increase, and indeed it wasn't designed to do so, but obviously there's been a very large-scale change in the whole gambling scene over the last few years with the 2005 Act, reducing restrictions on advertising, and indeed the government of the day designing a regime designed to make it possible for people to gamble as a leisure activity, subject to safeguards. So all those things, are in the background of this. Clearly, the fact that problem gambling has probably increased is something which we must take seriously, and it's a matter of concern and not be complacent about. So we will look carefully at that. We have work underway. We have had to try and understand more about what causes problem gambling, because not enough is known about what causes problem gambling. About 18 months ago, we set up the Responsible Gambling Strategy Board, a group of experts, basically, to look at the various pathways to problem gambling, and clearly we look to them to assist us in this.
It's really important, having had this particular survey in 2010 where we see that there are changes in behaviour, it's really important to continue to monitor the direction of travel with those changes, whether we're seeing an upward trend that can continue in the future or a random fluctuation that's just happened in 2010. We can't say what's driving what. All we can say is what the factors are. We'd need more research, and particularly more research into what's going on with women, I think, to make sure that we understand what's happening with women's increases in gambling behaviour, but also to make sure that messages about gambling responsibly are effectively communicated to that group.